Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. I love my Baltimore Positive segments. If you've seen the new website, we've merged WNST with the new Baltimore Positive and all sorts of great visitors, including a visit from the Speaker of the House last week, Nancy Pelosi, as well as lots of other political stuff, news stuff. And we're encouraging everyone. I'm trying to get as many people on who live in the state of Pennsylvania as possible, because I need you to vote. I need you to vote. And Dick Jerardi is going to be but my first foil here of the week, because it's Eagles week here. And I thought, you know what? I was going to have Dick on 2 weeks ago because they allegedly ran the Preakness here, although they didn't call anybody, didn't tell anybody. Dick Jerardi is one of my favorite Baltimoreans. He has been trapped up in Philadelphia for going on 4 decades now. He once took a job at the Philadelphia Daily News, and he never came home. He now he even forsake the Terps for Penn State. He is the voice of Penn State basketball, as well as long time insider on all sorts of college basketball and horse racing and other stuff. You know, I'm wearing Eagles green with my new El Guapo. El Guapo is our new Mexican restaurant sponsor here. They're just opening this weekend. What the hell happened to the Eagles? Last I talked to you, I thought like your kid was running up down the street and they were greasing poles. It was a good time, that Eagles thing, for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but it was short-lived. Look, they made the playoffs the last 2 years, but kind of miraculously both times, just barely got in and actually won a playoff game. Yeah, this is just a mess. I mean, the good news is they're in the worst division in football. So, like, every week you win a game, you're automatically at first. I mean, it's just brutal. So, right now, the quarterback has 9 picks, which is just outrageous. The defensive line is good. The rest of the defense is average to below average. Offensive line has 1 regular name that you'll remember, Jason Kelsey. Everybody else is new because people are hurt.
I loved his outfit at the parade. His outfit at the parade was the best.
Tremendous.
Yes.
Yeah, the Mummers outfit. Yeah, he doesn't wear that in games, but he might be needing it soon, because it's just a mess. They actually played better against Pittsburgh, even though they lost. They actually look like a football team, but yeah, they're kind of a mess, and obviously they're playing one of the best teams in the NFL on Sunday.
Yeah, I was rooting for them on Sunday. You know, they were playing the Steelers, and we talked about Pennsylvania and all the importance of what Pennsylvania represents here the next couple of weeks. But in regard to the Eagles and what's going on in the state of sports in Philadelphia, Dick, you've been around a long time. I mean, you made your living on sports. You and I have known each other since sports first days in 1984. Dick is a Baltimorean from Rogers Forge, worked at the News American. And so, I mean, you have a real sense of the importance of sports in our town versus that town. I talked to you 2 weeks ago about the Preakness, like they ran it and it didn't matter. They played a whole baseball season now and nobody's come. I found it weird. Right before I came in with my coffee, I'm a Royal Farms coffee here in my Cole Roofing mug, and my wife had the news on, and they're letting baseball fans in Texas. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, you know, when they go to ramp this thing back up, and I don't mean baseball or football or basketball or hockey or the Palestra or Penn State basketball, I'm really wondering what the appetite for all this is going to be 2-3 years from now. Like, now that I've saved $400 every time I don't go to a Ravens game, you know, I'm worried about it. I'm worried about people stopped writing the checks, and I'm worried about who's going to reach in their pocket when all of this is over, right? Hopefully, you know, we wake up, we got a better government, a better all of that around the corner. But when we wake up and the plague's gone, what happens to sports? I'm a little concerned about it.
No, it's a legitimate question, because, look, we'd all been used to doing what we've been doing forever, and now, through no choice or fault of our own, we haven't been doing it. We haven't bought tickets. We haven't been at events. And maybe some percentage of us, to your point, Nestor, is that we can live without it. It's okay. Or we can watch it on TV. We really don't need to be there. And a lot of our society that's going to happen. I mean, really, would you like to own commercial real estate right now? I mean, when's that coming back, now that people have found out they don't need to be somewhere to work?
My wife doesn't need to work. My kids can learn online. They're learning how to do that. And we're all watching these things now and seeking games out, right? Like hockey games in August, basketball games in October. I don't know, man. It feels like dogs and cats to me. It feels like they've really weirded things out. They're going to have a hard time getting it back to normal.
Yeah, what does happen when all of a sudden baseball says it's April of 2021 and there's opening day at Camden Yards? I mean, are people interested? Where are they? I mean, I know the Orioles are a special circumstance. But yeah, even in places like New York, where the Yankees obviously draw, and Los Angeles, where the Dodgers do, it's a great unanswerable question at the moment. But I guarantee you, anybody that owns a sports franchise, how about if you own the Rams right now and you built this, $2 billion stadium, whatever that number is out there, SoFi Stadium near where old Hollywood Park used to be. You have gotten nothing back so far. You've just put all this money into this place.
He owns Walmart, dude. I think he's okay.
I get it. I'm not feeling bad for him, but the point is he obviously invested something here thinking at some point he's going to get some money back. Right now he hasn't gotten a dime in this great 22nd century football stadium that nobody except the players and coaches has yet seen.
Give me your circumstance. I mean, you're sort of in semi-retirement, but you've been doing Penn State. And on the horse racing side, I mean, I have so much I can go through with you, just the state of sports and then taking it down to where's horse racing in this? I had Baffert on 2 weeks ago for a race nobody told me about that nobody could go to. You know, I'm into the football thing. Obviously, we're playing. We have a team here. We have the best team. That all smells nice and it feels good. I'm much more concerned about the whole bigger picture of all of it, of the have-nots and what happens. And especially for you, like being in Philadelphia, four-sport town, lots going on. You know, they got everything in Philly. And allegedly, we got the best fans and all of that stuff. I don't know. I feel like there's some avidity that's gone away in Boston. You know, I talked to Bob Ryan. I had Dan Shaughnessy on last month. We played the Red Sox. And they say the Red Sox are a distant number 2 to the Patriots now. And I'm sort of like, that's kind of an – I mean, I heard that from Bob and Dan, right? So when you're hearing that on the inside, where's the Philly sports fan? I mean, we all know who has the best mascot, right?
Right, no question. It's the hockey team. Yeah, they're gritty. But no, look, it's Eagles first, second, last, and always in this town. I don't know that it was always like that, but really from the mid-'80s with the Buddy Ryan teams, Reggie White, that crew, and sports talk radio became big around that time in the city, and it became all Eagles all the time. So, yeah, it's very much Eagles. I would say who knows who's next. I mean, it really depends on who's good. And at the moment, I guess the hockey team is the best of the group this year. Baseball hasn't been good for a decade now. So, yeah, it just all depends on who's good. But, yes, it's all Eagles in this town, and it's not close.
Let's paint it from horse racing back. Give me a state of horse racing as you know it and see it, and whatever the Triple Crown was or wasn't this year.
Right.
And then sort of picking up the pieces. I really am trying to figure out what they're doing here. Nobody will answer a call. Nobody talks on the record. Nobody talks off the record. It's not like they have something they can leave town with, like Bob Ursing, right? Like it's not like the Colts are leaving. It's more like this slow, torturous march on the Preakness to the point where if they move it somewhere, how do they even make it a big deal in some other municipality? This city, however, I don't know what to say, Dick. I mean, I'm Baltimore positive. They've got these plans, the governor, the plague, all this. Then they run the race and pretty much don't tell anybody. They kind of want to pretend that it didn't happen 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I mean, look, of all the events that happened this year, the one that was probably hidden the most, unfortunately, was the Preakness, just because of the timing of it, right? It was a gigantic sports weekend. Everything was playing. Everything was on TV. Oh, by the way, there's the third leg of the Triple Crown in Baltimore this week with no fans. So, yeah, it was a problem. And the unfortunate part, as you know, it was the best race of the three. It was the race of the year. It was an awesome event once it actually happened. But look, it's not. Preakness is never the same without fans. Here's the state of horse racing. Unlike every other sport, horse racing never stopped. Gulfstream Park never stopped. Oaklawn Park in Arkansas kept racing. And it's a contained community where if you're doing this right, there's people there every day. They were going to have to be there every day whether they were racing or not, obviously, to take care of the horses. So they said, all right, just this community is just basically, it was like the NBA bubble. You're going to be isolated. Everybody's staying here. And they've generally had no problems. Now, different states opened up at different times, like Pennsylvania, not until June. So from that standpoint, and because 95% of all the money is bet away from the racetrack now, horse racing did pretty well. The Triple Crown events, however, were down dramatically. TV ratings were down 50%. Probably because of the timing. I mean, Derby first Saturday in September. I mean, nobody's up for that. The handle was down 50% on all those races. The Belmont Stakes less so because it was closer to the normal time. But the Preakness and the Derby way down just because of the time of the year. And people weren't paying attention to it. You're waiting for the first Saturday in May and the third Saturday in May. All of a sudden, you're getting Saturdays in September and October. I think if it goes back to normal next year, it will be fine. But yeah, that was an issue. But in general, the betting handle has held really steady because you can bet on your laptop, you can bet on your phone. It was the one sport that was grandfathered in. I mean, now you can do it everywhere with the legalized sports betting, but it was grandfathered in way back when. So you could bet anywhere, anytime you want. And horse players have adapted to that. And I do think, Nestor, a lot of new horse players were made because people were dying to gamble on something when there were no sports at all through March, April, May. So horse racing got all that action because it was the only game there was.
Well, that and esports, but I'm not paying any attention to that underground nonsense. Dick Jerardi is here, my longtime compatriot and friend through horse racing, through Baltimore, through his love of the Orioles and the Colts, and then jetting off to the Philadelphia Daily News, where he worked with legends like Phil Jasner, amongst others, and many, many others up there for years. You also cover Penn State, and you cover big-time college basketball in the Big Ten, and Maryland. I guess that we should go back to March, because I remember having you on in the middle of the pandemic, and you gave me this incredible story, and I'll encourage everybody to go back and listen to the whole version of that from 6 months ago about where you were and all that happened. But for Maryland fans, being seventh in the country was like cool and fun and whatever. But for Penn State, it was Penn State's best basketball season, like, of your lifetime, literally, that got stalled back in March. So I would think there's even more interest in Penn State basketball than there is in Maryland basketball coming up soon, right?
Yeah, I think that's accurate because it was something that hadn't happened. Look, Maryland's used to basketball success. It's been going on since lefties showed up.
We are? We are. We had a parade here. That's right. We did. We had one.
Yeah, I mean, but 50 years of really good basketball at the University of Maryland with a couple of years, down years. But
books have been written about Maryland basketball history, not Penn State basketball history, right?
Yeah, exactly. There just isn't that much great history in the program. And in mid-February, they were up to 20-5 and ranked number 9 in the country, and they won 8 in a row in the Big Ten. And we're playing through those 8 games by every known metric. We're the best team in the country. So that was very un-Penn State-like. And then they slumped a little bit down the stretch, but that happens to everybody. They have bad parts. Maryland did the same thing. But then all of a sudden the Big Ten tournament is going to happen, as you and I talked about. That didn't happen, and then the NCAA didn't happen. So it just ended with no ending. And for a school like Penn State, which had 2 great seniors, guys that 1,000-point, 1,000-rebound, Lamar Stevens was ready to set the school scoring record. He needed 7 points. He never got to play again. Their careers are over, he and Mike Watkins. So it's not unlike what happened with Jalen Smith at Maryland. People are, wait, what's he going to do in the tournament? Well, he's not going to do anything because it's not happening, and now he's gone. So it's really unfortunate. College basketball, probably more than any other sport, got impacted because its marquee event never happened.
Well, and then the bubble happens for the NBA, and we see how these sports handled this. And Dick, for me, I started talking this week. There's a piece with Dennis Colatzos. It's out of Baltimore Positive. It has a big green screen and a football in a bubble. And we're now seeing the baseball people bubble up. We saw LeBron in the NBA bubble up, the NHL, all of that. I'm beginning to wonder for the NFL as we go up to Philadelphia this week, and I called you to not really talk Eagles. I called you because I love you, and I'm in the mood for a cheesesteak, and I'm coming up Sunday. So, hopefully I find one and a pretzel and all that. Also, you're in Pennsylvania. Vote in Pennsylvania, people.
Indeed.
Get out and vote, please. All right.
And make sure to put your secrecy envelope inside the other envelope. Are you aware of that? What we
Is
have
that a
to
Pennsylvania thing?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Teach me.
Yeah. So what it is, you get if you're doing a mail-in, which many people are, you will get 2 envelopes inside the envelope it comes in. One is your ballot. You have to put your ballot inside what's known as a secrecy envelope, and then you have to put that envelope inside the mailing envelope. If you send it in without the secrecy envelope, it does not count.
It's a barcode that says you're in, and then the actual secrecy is the other envelope. I understand. Maryland, we have a lot of ballot drop boxes, so I'm going to be dropping off. See, I thought it was going to be hard to get you to talk about democracy, Jerardi. I knew you'd be right on it to help me out.
Yeah. No, let's get rid of these clowns. Let's try a new group.
Yeah, let's
I've seen enough of this nonsense.
let's have a new course where we don't have to wear a mask
you.
and we take science seriously. Dick, for me with football, and we talk about taking science seriously, we talk about the bubble, and you talked about Penn State and all of these universities, whether they're playing football, fans. I mean, obviously the R states, they play, the D states, we're taking science seriously. It's pretty obvious how we've drawn this up. But for me with football and the NFL, and the thing that really struck me with LeBron the other night, LeBron wins, and for whatever reason, the first images I saw, he wasn't like crying and happy and whatever. And I said to myself, man, the entire sport, everything, all the money that they get all around the world, everything they did, they took this as seriously as the South Korean government did. And I was in South Korea last year, so I see how seriously they take things in that part of the world, and security and whatnot. And they finished their season. And I've told everybody this week that will listen, the smart people, they got paid. They made their money. They delivered their checks. They delivered a crown. They figured out a way to do it. The NFL right now, as we're going into Halloween, and I know there's a bunch of old white billionaires that own teams that supported this guy who think that the virus isn't coming back because they don't want to listen to Dr. Fauci. The virus has never left. It's coming back. It's going to be outrageous. It's going to be December. Texas, they're telling people to come down and go to baseball games, Dick. They're encouraging people to fly in for the games next week. I'm looking at this and saying the NFL really better get this under control if they want to have a Super Bowl wherever they're going to play it, because they're probably going to play in L.A. or Vegas. They really better be putting the bubble together here come early December to get their tournament in order come January. Yeah,
no, I couldn't agree more. And I thought what the NBA did was brilliant. And what was fascinating is the game, as it went further along and the players got in better and better shape, the counter basketball was incredible because there was no travel. There was no jets between cities. You didn't have to go from Miami to Los Angeles and back. These guys actually got real rest in between games. That's why that Game 5 on Friday night was so spectacular. Unfortunately, what happened was Miami was the racehorse who won by a nose after the race of his life and had nothing left for the next race. But that I thought, look, Adam Silver's the best commissioner maybe in sports history. He's smart. The players respect him. They listen to him. It's so unlike all the other sports. The players and management in the NBA are actually in this together. It's the perfect model for other sports. And
Why is that? That is leadership then in your mind?
Absolutely, it's leadership. And if you remember, Adam Silver had been commissioner for a minute when the Sterling stuff happened in L.A., and he handled it beautifully. He said, you're out, you're gone. Every player, look, it's 75% African-American. They said, okay, I like this guy. He gets it. He understands it. And so when everything happened, he was empathetic. He's smart. And bottom line, that's just a super well-organized league, has been for years, incredibly media-friendly. They get it. Most of the players have gone to college. When you talk to them, it's just they're one sharp guy after another. And, it is leadership, and that's just what's lacking in a lot of the other sports.
Well, then you go to the NFL, and we would say this is a seminal moment for the NFL, right? Baseball's going to finish next week, right?
They are. Yep.
Basketball finised with LeBron winning in a bubble, and okay, the ratings are down. I'll buy it. Look, we started the whole conversation with ratings are going to be down. People have more important things to worry about than whether the Ravens beat the Eagles this week. You got people in Philadelphia can't feed themselves. You got people in Baltimore without jobs. I'm just trying to get a pretzel and get in and out without touching anybody. Maybe get a tasty cake or something. But there are bigger things going on that I feel and see, that we all feel and see.
Sure.
For the NFL and the arrogance of what they did to Kaepernick and the chickens coming home, right? Yeah. And me sitting there watching these games the first week, and it's all about social justice, while you blackballed a guy, a quarterback, a Super Bowl starting quarterback who came, thankfully, 3 feet away from winning a Super Bowl for the wrong Harbaugh brother.
Yep. No, you're right. No, and they'll never be able to make up for that because you can't go back in time. But the fact that he's still without a job, obviously he's never going to get a job again in the league because none of these billionaire owners, old white guys, are going to take a chance on him. And it's horrible. And look, Goodell's now saying the right things, but I guarantee you his owners don't want to hear it. I mean, they don't. I mean, let's deal in reality. Most of these guys we know what they are. They always have been.
Just wait out the plague and cash the check, right, Dick?
That's it. You got it. That's them.
Dick Jerardi's been my friend for about 36 years, 36 and a half years now. I'll be 37 years in January. He's a long time. What do I say? You reclusive, semi-retirement? Where are you? Wait, are you really retired from the Philly Daily News? Or
I wrote some. I think the first year I was out, which was 2018, I probably wrote like 40 or 50 stories. Last year, less. This year, even fewer. So I'm still in action this year, just because there's just not been anything happening. So yeah, I'm there. I write for our website once a week, a horse racing website. I do a TV show up here on horse racing. As you know, I do the Penn State game. So I have more than enough action, and obviously I'm involved with horse racing on a daily basis because they do allow wagering from my house.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing you still have a house with all this wagering at the. What has your interest these days? What as a guy that's done this all these years, like me, like sports has been my life. Yep. And I find myself I watched a little of the French Open last week because the little gal from Poland that won, and she made me cry and run into the stands. And I had been to Roland Garros. I don't know exactly when they stopped calling it the French Open in this country, started calling it Roland Garros. But I am so sort of in and out with sports. Did not watch the NBA, watched a little bit of the NHL. I don't like empty sports. And then I put Monday Night Football on and I hear fake sound. I flew down to Houston and went up onto the moon at Reliance Stadium and watched the football game for no one. I drove down to D.C. 2 weeks ago. Mr. Snyder gave me platinum A parking. I had covered parking. I had covered parking right at the front door. They took my temperature on my forehead. I walked in. They gave me a delicious miso salmon for lunch, and I sat in the corner of the end zone in Washington. I couldn't see the down and distance.
Their press box is the worst.
Oh my God! You can't see the game from there.
I was there in a Monday night game one year. Brutal.
So when I consider my sports experience, maybe watching a handful, and I mean a handful of Orioles games back in August, I have been building this new Baltimore Positive website, interviewing the likes of Dutch Rupersberger and county executives, and the Speaker of the House called last week, and I'm doing a whole series this month on everyone who ever taught me, which is great that you're on. I got to get Marlo and Nusgard on here, and Jack Gibbons as well. So I'm having all my childhood teachers on to talk about wisdom during a plague, because I feel like that might be important.
Yep.
But what keeps your attention these days, Dick? Because, are you literally still just watching horse racing all day? Is that your thing?
No, I'm not. But my attention specifically is focused on the Breeders' Cup, which will be in a month at Keeneland, the final big horse races of the year. Starting to plan for college basketball season that's supposed to start on November 25th, but none of us have seen a schedule yet.
What are they trying to do? Do you even have it in your mind? Coming down and playing Maryland is one thing. Getting on a plane and going out to play Iowa and Minnesota in the middle of the night, I don't know.
Right. What I hope they'll do is, this would be my suggestion. I don't know if they're going to listen to this, but if I'm the Big Ten, I would have, say, Maryland and Penn State play 3 times. Or Maryland and Rutgers play 3 times. Try to keep these teams as close to home as possible. No long plane trips if you can help it. I don't know if that's what they're going to do. As far as non-conference games, Penn State was supposed to play a tournament in Charleston, South Carolina, the week before Thanksgiving. That's obviously not going to happen because the season's not starting until Thanksgiving weekend. I think what's going to happen is a lot of those teams are going to end up in Orlando, where they're going to try to do something similar on a smaller scale to what the NBA just did. Get a whole bunch of teams down there, just keep them there for 5 or 6 days, nobody in, nobody out, and have some basketball games, because there's not going to be any fans. Because this is the first now we're talking about indoor sports all of a sudden. Yeah, football's one thing. Or baseball, when it's outdoors and you can have 5 or 10,000, like they had 5,000 people in Pittsburgh Sunday for the Eagles and the Steelers. And I don't know, it's unclear if they'll have any fans Sunday at Lincoln Financial Field for the Ravens and the Eagles. There's a discussion, but it hasn't been determined yet. But yeah, how are they going to deal with these indoor sports, especially when it's cold? And what if all the doctors and the scientists told us it's a bigger problem when it gets cold? Well, and don't try to do things indoors. So basketball is the next. It's probably going to be the most difficult sport to handle because of what time of year it is and where it is. And we'll see how it works out.
And whether these kids are touching other kids on campus and whatnot,
of course.
right?
Of course, it's not, you can't put a college student in any kind of a bubble. That's not going to work. It just isn't. And at schools like Maryland and Penn State, which have, I don't know, what's Maryland got, 35,000 students, Penn State's in the 40,000 range. There is just no way you're not going to interact with people. I don't know how all the classes are working at these colleges. I know a lot of, and universities, I know a lot of them are virtual, but there's also in-person classes. So you are going to interact with people. And the fact is, the more people around, the better chance you have of getting something. That's by any number and any rational way of looking at it.
Well, Dick, I hope there comes a day when I get in my car and I drive up to the Bryce Jordan Center to see Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band nail Lions Den to start the set. Maybe like a 4-hour set. I don't know. I'm worried about all this, right? Like I had Stones tickets, Pearl Jam tickets. Obviously, Bruce has got the album coming out. I'm going to try to grab Nils and get him on the show this month to talk about some things because I've had some – Rob Halford from Judas Priest is coming on later this month. He just wrote a book. So some of these musicians being at home, I've been trying to get them on and whatnot. I think they're really not going to be able to start up the band, right? And I would say I miss music as much as more than I miss sports. I mean, I miss going down to Merriweather and sitting on the lawn on a summer night. I would take that back before you get me at Camden Yards for a baseball game for a 100-loss team, you know?
100, only 100? You're doing better.
Well, they only played 60 games this year, so they can only lose so many, Dick. Hey, man, I love you, brother.
They were actually a little better this year, right? I mean, by Orioles standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short track. Anything, right? Anything's possible. But in the end, I guess they got the right 4 teams playing this week, right? I mean, you talk about the NBA with LeBron and the Heat and all that. The same thing with hockey.
It is interesting how that works out. I mean, the Astros obviously underachieved in the regular season, but they were better than that. And no trash.
You look at like the Red Sox, you look at the Nationals, you look at some of these teams that didn't even try, and it was like hockey. The Capitals showed up in that bubble, and they drank themselves and ate themselves out of the bubble in 5 days. They showed up in Toronto, nobody looked like they wanted to be there, and then you wake up 10 weeks later, and the Tampa looked like they wanted to be there. I mean, LeBron looked like he wanted to be there. So there was a little bit of that, I think, with when it started all up as to who was going to be motivated.
Look, so a lot of people got totally out of shape. They did nothing for this couple of months, and the players and teams that stayed in shape and were ready. And it's the same thing in horse racing. Parks is my home track up here. It's like 20 minutes away. We had a trainer who came out. He was winning everything. I mean, every race. I said, what did you do differently than everybody else? He says, I kept training my horses. A lot of these people, they just were walking the horses around every day. So they weren't ready when it came time to race after they've been off for 3 months. Same with players.
One day you'll have to teach me all about horse racing and, all that. Baffert's been trying for years. You, Marty McGee. You guys will teach me about it right when the Preakness leaves town. I guess that's probably what happens. 40 Preakness is in. Dick Jerardi still making his way from Philadelphia down here to Baltimore and out to State College whenever Penn State plays. And, hey, man, enjoy the races. I always love visiting with you. I'm sorry we didn't get a Preakness together here. Maybe we'll have that in the spring. And don't beat the Ravens this week. I wore green this week for El Guapo, but don't beat the Ravens this week.
Eagles 7.5-point home dogs. I'm not sure when the last time that happened, but since there's no home advantage, it almost doesn't matter where you play.
There's nobody there to call my wife names like the last time.
Just don't wear a Raven shirt, whatever you do.
By the way, I'm looking over your shoulder, over your right shoulder. Is that a Raven bird in the window that you have up above? Like, if you look over, is that? It's not an eagle, man. You got a bird in the window there. So it looks like a Raven bird.
I think it's more like a robin. But you want it to be a Raven.
It looks like a Raven from here. So I figured that's your little cheap shot for those Philadelphia people. Now
I've been up here since 1985, but I am from and always will be from Baltimore.
I got the magma lamp here for you, brother. Dick Jerardi, we love you. Philadelphia Daily News, you can find him. He still tweets out there even though he's in semi-retirement. And you and me, whenever socially distancing thing happens, if they play a game at the Palestra at any point, I will put on gloves, a mask, I'll Purell, I'll stay away from you. But we got to
I'll take you to Joe's Soda Shop for cheesesteaks up in the Northeast, and then we'll go to the Palestra.
Fatten me up. I love you, Jerardi. Thanks, bro.
See you, pal.
All right, Ravens and Eagles this Sunday in Philadelphia. I will be on the scene. Luke is in Owings Mills all week. He will bring you any breaking news on the WNST Tech Service, all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. While we're shouting out sponsors, go give the king a ring. Lottery, beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore. My wife asked the eternal plague question. Can we get the tequila in the cases? Can he sell it? And I'm thinking I have to ask Paul about that. So we're getting into that level of the plague that it's wintertime. I already bought 2 cases of wine this summer that we're going through. It is a delicious Malbec. But the King Discount Liquors, I'm in the commercials from time to time. Give the King a ring. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net. We have merged 23 years of sports with 2 years of Baltimore Positive all into one pipeline. Go to BaltimorePositive.com. I think you'll like what you see.